California's coronavirus numbers are on the rise. As of noon today, the total case number had passed 945,000, and with a death toll of well over 17,000. It leaves the state's tourism industry hobbled during crucial winter months. Part of that is the state's theme parks. Parks in the state were dealt devastating news yesterday that they would not be able to reopen unless cases in their counties had reached the minimal tier, or less than one case per 100,000 residents. Smaller theme parks with a capacity of 15,000 visitors or less can reopen when their counties reach the moderate spread level. Joining us now to discuss the impact of that decision is Erin Guerrero, Executive Director of California Attractions and Parks Association. Erin, great to have you with us on the show today. I do want to understand, what are you doing to work with officials to reopen these parks, and do you have any ideas on a timeline?
Great. Hi. Thanks, Nora. Thanks for having us. So we've been working with the Newsom administration since the beginning of the pandemic back in March. We prepared an industry-wide plan, and each park has prepared extensive plans to reopen. And we've shared those plans with them, and we're just anxious for them to realize that, yes, fighting the pandemic has got to come first. We understand the governor's public health first approach, but it can't come to the exclusion of all other issues such as socioeconomics and financial health and mental health, behavioral health. All these things have to come into play. So when they rolled out the guidance that keeps the major theme parks closed until Tier 4, obviously we're very concerned about the impact that's going to have, not just on the parks, but on all the surrounding businesses and the employees and the local governments. So we're going to continue to work with the Newsom administration, and hopefully we'll be able to get reopened sooner than that Tier 4.
And Erin, we understand that officials are expected to provide some updates on those tiers later today. What are you expecting and hoping to hear from officials on the point of these tiers?
So as far as the tiers go, each week they provide status updates on which counties are moving through the tiers. I'm not aware of any changes to the actual criteria for the tiers. So at this point, I don't think it'll change much for us, but I'll be tuning into Dr. Galley's press conference once we wrap this up.
And Erin, you know, if parks do remain closed, as you mentioned, there's pressure to the employees of these parks and otherwise. At what point do you think more severe action will need to be taken by organizations such as yourselves, even to the point of legal action against some of these officials and their decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're looking at an economic impact analysis that was conducted by CSU Fullerton. And they're estimating that between March of 2020 to March of 2021, they're looking just the impact of Disneyland, which is one park here in California, and there are many others. And they're estimating that there's going to be roughly 46,000 job losses in that time, with an economic hit of $5 billion. So obviously that has us extremely concerned. I'm not sure exactly, what the tipping point is, but we look at the other activities that are currently allowed in the state, and we simply don't understand why, for example, you could go to a zoo, which we're, very, very happy that they've been allowed to reopen, but why not a theme park? So we don't have a set timeline, but each day that passes, it's more people out of work, it's more hits to local governments, it's more hits to these small mom and pop restaurants and hotels that surround the parks that are really on life support right now.
As you mentioned, zoos have been allowed to reopen, outdoor shopping malls, that sort of thing. Why do you think theme parks are being treated in a different bucket and aren't expected to follow in those same buckets as these other events and types of institutions?
Honestly, we've been asking that same question. It doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense to us. They seem to be applying different sets of standards for very similar entities. Parks are very, very controlled places. Theme park goers are expected they know the rules, they follow the rules, they're told where to go, where to stand. So theme parks are fully ready to greet guests and do it in a safe way. They've spent the past 7.5 months preparing to do so with extensive modifications and a lot of protocols and sanitation. So they're ready to do what it takes to reopen. And we're, just trying to work with the administration. If there are concerns, work with us and we'll address them. But worldwide, I know the numbers are going up in, a few other countries, but nowhere are we seeing any evidence that coronavirus outbreaks are being traced back to theme parks. So if they've been able to open elsewhere, we don't understand why they can't open in California.
Erin, we have heard from employees of some of these theme parks, the larger ones like Disneyland, for example, and labor unions, that not enough, or their perspective is that not enough is being done from the highest levels of those corporations to offer safety measures, protections for some of these workers, or even plans around that. What is the sentiment among employees as far as what their corporations, their leaders are doing to try to keep them safe and keep them mentally sane as well?
Well, actually, there was a letter that came out from many of the unions at Disneyland, and they are fully supportive of moving to Tier 3. And with all those protections, it's really important to realize that when theme parks reopen, it's not going to look anything like they looked before COVID. They're going to have immense capacity reductions. Again, I mentioned all the different modifications. There's plexiglass all over. There's signage everywhere. There are, hand washing stations. California's been very proactive in employee protections, and the parks are fully prepared to comply with all of those extra leave policies to make sure that the workforce is healthy. It does the parks no good to reopen and not have a healthy workforce and not to have consumer confidence. So, I think that the employees are ready to come back to work, and that's what we've been hearing.
All right, Erin, thank you so much for your time today. That's Erin Guerrero, Executive Director of California Attractions and Parks Association.